Okay. In this video, we're going to talk about general education classes. General education classes is very, very, very important. They are a university requirement, the different subjects that you need to complete in order to graduate. So this is something that comes from a university. There is very little that the department can do in terms of waiving and substituting classes for the general education classes. Therefore, it is very, very important for you guys as students to complete these general education classes as soon as possible. I'm going to repeat this again. This is controlled by the university. It will postpone your graduation if you do not fulfill one. It is very important for you to actually finish the general education classes as soon as possible. These are also subjects that everyone in the university have to take. So there is a high competition among students for these classes. That's why I talked about you want to get into the system as soon as possible in order to clear these courses out. Now, on this particular version of the curriculum guide, like you see right here, you do see the specific courses listed out for the general education classes, like here, like so, this one, this one. It tells you the specific class that you need to take. This is technically not true. For a general education class, you do have the freedom to choose whichever approved class you want for that particular subject. It does not have to be the exact same as the one listed here. So if you see on this particular form, there is actually a drop-down that tells you these are all the different options for general education. And you can choose whichever one that's up here, and that will fulfill that particular requirement. So that is a very basic thing about the general education classes. Now, you guys, of course, have this drop down. So what you'll have is a website provided by the university that will tell you information about general education courses, which is this particular screen that should be showing up on your end right now. And here we have a different resources for us to look at. The first one here, this is general education course resources. It sort of goes through a general idea as to what the general courses are. They talk about these are the different areas for your general education courses. If you click on this particular link right here, it will tell you specifically how many credits you need to complete for each of those areas. So reading communication, you need a total of 6 credit hours. Math, you need to have a total of 6 hours. And also one of the math classes have to have a MATH prefix, has to be a MATH class. We will look at that a little bit later on as well. Scientific reasoning, you have total 7 credits. One of it has to be a lab-based course, meaning one of the classes has to be in lab. You have 3 classes in social behavioral sciences, 3 classes in art, humanity, and fine arts, 3 classes in global awareness, 3 classes in African American culture, and 1 class in student success, total of 32 credits that goes into your general education. Now, specifically, there is a general education course list as the one you see here. This will tell you specifically what courses are approved under each of those sections. So for instance, it says written communication has ENGL 100, ENGL 101 that are approved for this particular subject. If you recall, let me type this. Uh, no. So if you recall on here, this written communication 6, you have a total of 6 credit hours. Each of these classes is 3. That means you need 2 written communication classes. Here is only 2, so you have to take those 2 classes to fulfill this particular requirement. The math classes, this long list right here, these are all the approved classes under the math or MLAR subject. you need a total of two classes. One of them has to be a math class. So that means one of the classes has to be from this particular list. The second one can be not from a math, so it can be the history 277, the nurse 204, philosophy 102, and stats 214. Those classes will fulfill the second math class for this particular area. Now, math class is a little bit tricky as well. It does tie into your math placement test, either a test that you took when you come into the university or based on your ACT or SAT scores. And the university will determine what level of math you have to take depending on your math placement test. So the test may tell you that, oh, you need to take Math 101, maybe Math 103, 110, for instance, but they will tell you, will tell us what specific math class you need to take. And for some students, and for those who have not taken the math placement test, then you guys will have to take a class called Math 101E. So that will be a Math 101 with an E at the very end. It's a enhanced version of Math 101, and that will be the option that you have. And that's something that you can find out. If you are trying to register for the wrong math class, the system will actually block you from doing so. So just be patient, be careful of that. And then we have the scientific reasoning. So remember, scientific reasoning, one of them has to have a lab included in them. So the most basic ones are biology 100, 101, and 102. These classes already have a one credit lab embedded in them. So that will fulfill that particular requirement. You can also do like a combination here where Chem 100 goes with Chem 110. That will have the lecture plus lab. Chem 104 and Chem 114. That will be the lecture and the lab, etc., etc., etc. You also have the physics. Here we go. Surveying physics lab. So that's 110 and 111. 214 and 224. That would be the lab and the course. 225 and 235, 226 and 236. That will again be the lecture in the lab. So make sure one of these scientific reasonings, it has a lab component. The second one can just be a regular 3-credit lab, 3-credit scientific reasoning course. Does not have to have a lab. That is sort of the more tricky ones. The other ones are pretty straightforward. You just pick whichever class is up here that will go into that particular area. Now, one thing to caution is also that you may see certain courses that are appearing more than once on this particular list. So, for example, let's see, okay. So, for example, you see History 106, African American History to 1877, appears once under the knowledge of African American culture and history, but also again under the social behavioral science down here. So if you take History 106, it can only fulfill one of these requirements, but not fulfill both. So the class cannot be counted twice. If you took 106, it can either go to fulfilling this particular requirement or this requirement, but not both at the same time. So that's one additional thing that you want to pay attention to. And lastly, there is a specific list. This is a specific list for the classes for general education. That means only these classes can be counted as general education. If it's a different number, different name, then it will not be counted towards general education. So, for example, some of you may have a transfer credit coming in, and it says HIST 106T. And that 106T effectively makes it a different number compared to the one that's up here. Therefore, it cannot be counted towards a general education class. Another situation that I've encountered many times is there is a ENVS 201, the Earth Environment class for scientific reasoning. Under ENVS, they have a ENVS 210 called Environmental Studies. That's a different class they offer. The 210 class is not on the gen ed list. It's a different number, different subject compared to 201. Even though they sound very similar, they sound very similar, they are effectively different. Therefore, the EMVS 210 class cannot be counted towards this general education. Be careful with regards to selecting whichever classes you want to take in terms of general education. Make sure that they are matching with this particular list right here. And that is really the requirement for general education. There is no C requirement for gen ed classes. You can have a C minus or a D for gen ed classes. As long as you pass them, then you'll be okay. And that is one thing that you do want to get out of the way as soon as possible. That way you don't have to worry about missing one gen ed class or missing one lab, and that's preventing you from graduating. Because once again, it is a rule coming from the university, and they are not willing to make any adjustments for the most part. You have to fulfill this requirement in order to graduate. So definitely be very, very careful about gen ed classes, and definitely try to complete them as soon as possible. And that will have concluded the scientific reasoning courses part.